little light there if you're hooking up at nighttime, up and down. There is, I don't know if this one has, I don't see a fusible link on this one. I think it goes right to the battery. So if for some reason this gets bound up, usually what happens, but when you're hooked up to your truck, if you crank it up all the way, sometimes it'll bind up. So I suggest just bumping it back down so it doesn't lock up in there. If it does lock up and happens to like short out or something, you can take this cap off right here, and then you can put a crank handle down inside here.
A manual
nut.
crank?
Yeah, there's a nut on the top of the motor there that you can move that up and down. 2 20-pound propane tanks. These are full and ready to go for you. It's recommended to keep both tanks turned on because it has the automatic changeover regulator on it. So what happens is it's got the little arrow right here. Right now it's pointing at this tank.
Okay.
When this tank runs out, this gauge turns red. It senses that pressure drop and switches over to the other tank. And then you can move this over manually and then take your empty tank out and have that filled up. You don't have to worry about propane leaking out the other pigtail.
So we just have to make sure that that's turned on me before we take it off?
Yeah. Yep. So if that turns red, just flip that over to the other tank and then just keep both tanks turned on. And so if you run out of propane at like 3 o'clock in the morning and you're camping in the colder seasons, you don't have to run out here and switch the tanks over. It does that automatically. 12-volt deep cycle marine RV battery. I don't think this one has the kill switch on it. So when you're in storage, you can disconnect your negative cable. So that's your negative cable there. Disconnect your negative cable in storage just so the battery doesn't die while it's sitting there. There's things inside like the memory on your stereo. The propane detector will draw the battery down after a couple weeks of just sitting there. So disconnect that battery. And
when we're not using it like in between.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. But when you're towing and when you're hooked up, just make sure that's reconnected. You do have a breakaway cable right here. This will hook up with one of your tow chains. Some people put carabiner clips on them and hook them up on your receiver loops. This in there. What this is an emergency brake. If your trailer happens to fall off your truck when towing, it'll pull this little plastic plunger out and it'll lock the brakes up on the trailer. Emergency use only. Don't use that to lock the brakes to keep the camper from rocking back and forth. You'll end up melting your brake wires doing that.
Okay.
So if that plastic plunger right here happens to pop out, you can kind of see it right here. If that happens to pop out for some reason on accident, just plug that back in.
Okay.
You've got a 30 amp end on the end of your cable there. If say you want to keep this plugged in at home or you're getting everything ready for a camping trip and you want to plug it in, get your refrigerator started, run off electric, you can plug an extension cord into this, into your shore cord, and do that. If you are using this, don't.
So that's the adapter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't run your AC if you're running this, because what can happen is you can either trip breakers in your house, or you can. I have seen extension cords get melted by pulling too many amps.
Okay.
Crank handle right here for your jacks, and I believe this will also fit the tongue jack on as well. You can use a 3/4 inch socket on a non-impact drill too to zip those up and down. The back ones, especially when you're pulling toys up.
On a non-impact?
Non-impact drill. Yep. Yep. You can use an impact on them. I do, but it can gum up the threads on there and cause these to fail prematurely. Like I said, I do it. I don't have a problem with it, but I keep them lubricated too. So, manufacturer recommends non-impact. So I have to say that.
And when you're talking about these, do you have to like lubricate these after every use, or
once a year is fine?
Once a year. Okay.
These ones, well, I guess your back ones too, because they're kind of where dust will gather up from your wheels. Just kind of make sure they're cleaned off. Use a like a dry lithium grease, just so it doesn't collect that dust on that thread.
Okay.
Threads get in there and then it gets really hard. And, then you're replacing them every couple of years. Not much else in here. There is a spare tire in there for you if you need that. When you're pulling toys up into the back, make sure the back jacks are down, especially if you're not hooked up to your vehicle, because that trailer will go up like this. So make sure those back jacks are down.
So technically you should always be hooked up to your vehicle, right, as well, and have the jacks down.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. There's a little vent right here, so for your cooktop inside, if you're running that, this just pops out. You can turn that fan on, and I call it the bacon fan because I like to smoke my trailer out. So when you're running that, just pop that out.
So that has to pop out from the back side though? You have to do that out here.
Out
You
here,
can't do it
yep.
from the
It's got
inside?
those little clips right here that
Okay.
just pop out like that. And that'll vent. Just when you're driving and in storage, just snap that back in so bugs stay out of there. Down on the side here, you've got your dump station. So this is your black valve, your gray valve. Black is your sewer tank. Gray is going to be your sinks and showers. I always recommend dumping your black first and then the gray. It kind of rinses that sewer hose out. You do also have the black flush feature on here. So when you're at the dump station, you can hook a hose up here. I've got this feature on my trailer too, but I still pour a gallon of water down my toilet with the chemical. That way when I'm driving down the road, it's sloshing around in there and knocking all the stuff off the sensors. That's the biggest problem with the black tanks, is the misread on the sensors.
Okay.
A piece of toilet paper gets strung across it or something and throws a misread. When you're using your black and gray tanks, chemicals every single time. RV rated toilet paper only as well. No like flushable wipes or any of that stuff down there, because it will clog your system. The chemicals are only designed to break up the RV toilet paper.
Okay.
We do have different chemicals in there. You can get different chemicals on Amazon too. I know if you're going to like California, you're not allowed to use chemicals. You have to use enzymes, use the biopacks. This is your refrigerator here, the back side of your fridge. Really only thing, actually I got to spray that out a little bit. Just make sure this stays clear of like cobwebs and whatnot. Spiders will get inside here, inside your gas valve, preventing that from firing up if you're using the gas on your refrigerator. Usually you can take I've always carried a can of keyboard cleaner with me in my trailer, just in case any dust gets up in there. Just blow that out. Usually they fire right up. It is a gas electric fridge. You've got the option inside. Usually you leave it on auto. If you're hooked up to power, it's going to select the power. If you lose power or unplug, it'll kick right over to gas automatically. But yeah, keep this area clean. I'm going to leave this off because I'm going to clean that up for you. Occasionally, depending on how bumpy your roads are, check this plug right here. This one's actually not bad. I've seen those plugs fall out. Mine's actually up here, so anytime I go up to the Upper Peninsula, it falls out on me.
Okay.
Because I'm always going down some pretty nasty roads. So just kind of check that. If your electric's not working on your fridge, check that plug right there. If your gas isn't firing up, like I said, you can blow that out with some compressed air. Sometimes the valve, your valve's right here, that gets sticky if it's not used a lot. So you can take like a screwdriver or something, just tap that while it's trying to ignite, and that'll sometimes free up that
And then
valve.
you spray like underneath here? Or just
Inside, you can either open this up here. Right now it's a little warm because the fridge is running. Or you can go inside here and just blow it out. It's basically just to free up any dust that might be in there. This is your furnace exhaust right here, so when that's running in the cooler season, nothing flammable or meltable in this area. Make sure that stays clear. Bees like to get inside there too, so there are screens that are made for this specifically that you can attach right here. And that's the biggest problem we see with furnaces is bees and mud daubers getting inside there, especially in
So
storage.
then like the screens, you just pop these off, put the screens in and kind of put it over?
They're actually held on by like a spring, so you get a special tool that goes with it, and the spring attaches to the middle right here.
Writing that down.
Yeah.
Freshwater tank. So if you're out doing some dry camping, you don't have water access right there at your site, that's where you'll fill your tank up at. And there's a little vent right here. When that tank fills up, that'll start spitting water out at you.
And that's 30 on this, right?
I believe 30 or 35. I can't remember on this one. And then down below here, so you can see the caps off right now, should be in your water heater compartment, but that's the drain for your freshwater tank.
Okay.
So right now everything's winterized, so the caps are all off and water lines have antifreeze in them. The water right there at your site, that's where you'll plug your hose up at. Don't get this one in your black flush confused. It's nice that they actually separated this one, 'cause sometimes they put them right next to you. So you hook that one up, and then you're starting to flood your black tank. So city water there. And then this is that spray port that I was telling you about. There's no valve on this. Once you plug that hose in here, you've got water. Check your tire pressure every time you hook up. It doesn't matter if they're Goodyear Endurances or Castle Rocks. Tire pressure
What's it supposed to be at? Does it say on
These
here?
ones I believe are at 65. Yep, 65 right
65,
there.
okay.
Yep. So check that. If you upgrade your tires, so say you get a 10-ply tire on here that may require 80 pounds, there's a sticker on the side of your trailer up here. I get this question a lot. You want to follow the pressure on the tire, not on the sticker.
Okay.
With cars, it's different. You always want to follow the pressure on the stickers on cars, but with trailers, this sticker is from the original manufacturer of the tire that was put on there. So if you upgrade to 10-ply tires, make sure you're putting those at 80 pounds, not 65. Okay. I upgraded tires just because I wanted a more beefier, robust tire. I put 10 plies on mine.
Does it make a difference in how it pulls, or
no, not at all. Technically, per the tire, it's rated to hold more, so you can put more weight in your trailer, but you still want to stay within the guidelines of the trailer. So if this trailer is only rated to pull 7,000, I don't know what this one is. Your cargo, you can put 2,700 pounds inside the trailer. And the gross vehicle, so 77.75. So you never want to be over that. Even if you do upgrade the tires, that can technically hold more. You want to stay within that because the springs on the trailer, that's what that's rated for.
Okay.
So if you start overloading, you're going to start noticing more wear on your tires, which will also cause a blow up. Dexter says repack the bearings about every 12,000 miles. I unfortunately don't know how many miles are on this trailer. I did pull a hub off and the bearings look good on it. So I would say probably the next year or two, depending on how many miles you put on it.
You said about every 12,000 miles?
About every 12,000 miles, yep. And then the brakes, when you're pulling that off, check your brake shoes. The brake shoes can go down to a 1/16 of an inch. Okay. So I rarely see...
Those are shoes instead of pads?
Yeah, they're because they're drum brakes. Okay. I rarely see them wear down before replacement. Usually what we see is cracking and the shoe actually starting to fall apart. Okay. 4 years I've been doing this, I think I've only seen one trailer out of the hundreds I've worked on that wore right down, and that was because the person loved to use their brakes. When they were pulling, I'm actually guilty of this. When I'm pulling my trailer, I just use my trailer brakes. Okay. When it saves on the brakes on my truck. So, but if you have a good brake controller, your truck and your trailer should be braking together, depending on which type you have. This is your water heater, 6-gallon water heater. It's your anode rod that you'll plug in. This is normal use. This is still fine. Usually about every 3 years. Basically, if the entire anode rod looks like this right here, all the way down, that's when you're going to want to replace it. So I get asked this a lot, if you should replace this one right now.
It looks like shit, doesn't it?
It does, but this is still good. This is actually what it's designed to do, falling apart like this. Basically, if you've got really, really hard water, mineral rich water, it's going to eat away at this rod versus eating away at your tank and causing your tank to rupture. So this rod is still very good. Again, winterized right now, so it's out. Just when you're ready to put water in your system, plug that back in. If you're not going to use your trailer for a week or two at a time, I pull mine out between every single trip just so water's not staying in here getting stagnant. Because your water heater water especially can get really stinky, almost as bad as your sewer tank. It smells like rotten eggs. So pull that out between every trip and just drain that tank out. Make sure you're hitting your pressure relief first. Just kind of pull this out and you'll hear the pressure kind of relieve in it before you pull that anode rod out. Otherwise the water pressure you're going to get a shower. If it overheats, there's there's one button because this is gas only. So there's a button right here that may trip and have to reset. So you'll just push that in. That's if the tank overheats. One of the biggest causes of overheating a tank is no water inside of it. So if you fire that gas up and there's no water in here, it's gonna heat up and it's gonna trip that. It's also gonna melt your insulation around the tank too, posing a fire hazard. So
this is something you fill right when you get to the campground usually, or if you don't have access to water before you leave.
Yeah, so usually I fill mine at the campground when I'm pulling up to the station. I'll hook the hose up here, start filling this tank, give it a couple minutes, go inside, turn your water pump on, get this tank filled up. That way you're not robbing your fresh tank 6 gallons of water when you get to your site. It's already filled up.
Right. Okay.
You know, sometimes I get crazy and I fill mine up at home too, depending on how long of a trip we're taking. If we want water, if we're stopping for the night somewhere. Usually we use bottled water on the roads. I don't like putting water in my fresh tank when I'm driving. It's just a lot of weight and stress.
Yeah.
This is your cap for your fresh tank, so I just put it in here because it's all winterized and empty right now. Cable and satellite hookups right here. So some of the fancier RV resorts that might have cable at the post, that's where you can hook that up at. Or if you ever get a satellite dish, you can plug that in there too. And then there's plug-ins behind your TV hookups inside there. If I remember correctly, this one's a different awning from what I'm used to. Your motor's up front. This tube back here has a spring in it. So if you ever have to take this apart for any reason, be careful of that spring that's inside that tube. It's kind of like a big garage door spring. It's about this long and it has a lot of tension in it. I've been in this for 4 years now, and I've seen a lot of technicians
Get hurt.
With your awning out, the biggest thing with awnings is wind. If it's getting windy, pull this in.
Okay.
It's all aluminum, so one gust of wind, if you're getting over 10-15 miles an hour, pull it in because you're going to fold it right up. I have replaced more awnings on trailers than any other given part in the 4 years I've been doing this. Just because people leave them out and they walk away, even at nighttime, you know, they go to bed and all of a sudden a gust of wind comes up and it's a big sail. It folds it right over the camper. If it's raining, if it's not raining too heavy, you can pitch it to shed water off. So just loosen this up and you can pull this arm down. Tighten that up, and you can do the same thing with the front arm there. Just make sure that before you pull the awning back in, loosen both of these knobs up so that's extended all the way. That way your fabric stays straight when you're rolling it up. It doesn't get wrinkled and stretched out. There's no limit switch when you're hitting extend on it. That tube will actually start rolling up backwards. So once you see this little flap come down, that's where you want to let go of the button because it won't stop itself.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yep.
Say that again, I missed it.
When you're pressing the button to extend it, you gotta look for this little flap. As soon as you see the flap, take your hand off the button. It doesn't stop itself.
Oh, okay.
No.
Will it just completely unroll it?
No. There's a gimp in there that holds the end of the tube. It just starts rolling up backwards, and then your tube is on top of the fabric. What'll happen over time is it'll start stretching the fabric out here, and it'll rip off the side of your trailer. Plus, it holds a lot of water too because now that tube is up top instead of underneath.
Okay.
Your steps, you guys see how they're up right now? I didn't level the trailer completely before I opened all this up. The door will catch on this right here. So if you've got a site where you need to adjust these steps, you just want, there's a couple of pins on the sides here that pop out. Which is really tight.
Okay.
So that'll pop out there, and then you can adjust these. Because right now, if I was to go to close this door right now, the bottom of the door will catch on the threshold of this step. Or if you're uneven like that, then it's going to make a lot of noise every time you use it. Just get those fairly level right now, just so we can close the door. I like the newer designs. They have a push button, and this is so much easier. Still a little uneven. You just want to make sure that that's down against the threshold all the way so that your door closes and doesn't bind up on it. Or do that. When you're opening and closing your steps, your door has to be open all the way because this little ear right here will catch your screen. You can see where that's happened a couple of times there. You do have your vents, so when you're driving down the road, you can open these up to get airflow. There's one up here, and then there's one on the other side of the trailer and on the bottom. That's so if you got like quads or something in there with fuel fumes. This is a solar port, so you can get an external solar panel and plug that in right here, and that's already wired up to your battery. depending on how much dry camping you do. Those are nice for like weekend trips, just to keep the batteries charged up. If you're finding yourself doing a lot of dry camping, I recommend getting a couple solar panels mounted up on the roof. Just to check all your seals around your skylights and vents. Up on the roof, you want to use what's called a self-leveling lap sealant. So around like where your bathroom vent opens up, and then above your refrigerator, there's a vent up there. You just want to make sure that you don't see any cracking in those seals up there.
Okay.
Biggest enemy of trailers is water. So that's why manufacturer says every 90 days, every 3 months, get up there and check them.
What kind of sealant needs to be used up there?
Lap sealant.
Okay.
On the roof. Yep. And then on the sides, because it's the fiberglass sided, really easy maintenance on these. Really the only seals you have to worry about are these front seals here. You can check. I can actually touch that one up really quick too. But that's what you want to look for right there. I'll put some silicone on that. Control panel right here. So this has your water pump if you're pulling from your fresh water tank. If you're hooked up to your city water, you've got a hose from the site there. You don't need to use your water pump. This is just pulling from your fresh tank. Water heater, that ignites your gas burner on the water heater. Fault light will come on for a few seconds. Once it tries to light, that'll go out. You can actually hear it. Give it a couple seconds. Gas might there, just tried. So that's going to try 3 times to light up if there's something obstructing that burner, or if your gas is off. That fault light will pop back on, letting you know you need to reset that cycle. Check that burner, make sure there's no dirt or spiders on it. Check to make sure you have gas. Come back in, turn it off, back on.
Okay.
It should light right up. Lights for your, so that's your LED strip outside.
Okay.
This one is that one light right here. Keep in mind if someone comes in and turns that one off, that switch doesn't really good.
I didn't know they did that.
Yep, every light has the push button. It's
Nice.
just
Those are
that
bright.
one-
I like looked at it for a second.
know.
Yeah, that one is on the switch. I don't know why they didn't put all of them on the switch, because they're all push button anyway, but I've got 1,000 questions for the manufacturers of these trailers. I could spend a month with them. Your monitor panel here, so battery, that's showing that that's full or charging. We're plugged in, so it's charging up. Fresh tank, black and gray tank. So once you start using, filling up your toilet, your black tank's going to show a read. Gray tank is going to be your kitchen sink and shower. Climate control up here.
Black tank is toilet and gray is sink and shower.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. If you're actually back to this real quick, if you're at a full hookup site, your gray valve down there you can leave open, so all of your soapy water can drain as it comes into your system, because usually no solids go down into that tank.
Okay.
Your black tank you have to leave closed until you're at least half full. It needs that water in there with that chemical to break up all the solids. Otherwise, if you have that open, all your liquids drain away, and then you're back in the repair shop, and a very unhappy technician has to pull your tank. Climate control right here, so this does your AC and your furnace. This bottom button is the mode button, so that'll cycle through all of your settings. So bump that, that'll turn your fan on your AC only. There's low, high, and then it goes to cool, high, and low. AC just kicked in. And then you also have cool low auto, cool high auto.
What the hell?
Which once it hits, like say it's set at 72 degrees, once it hits 72, it'll start going kind of cycling.
So that's what the auto does?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then heat is your furnace. You'll fire up your furnace, which that's the intake underneath the refrigerator there. So make sure when the furnace is running that area stays clear. And then you've got ducts through. Your AC is ducted through the ceiling, furnace is ducted through the different ports on the walls there. And then up and down arrow is your temperature settings for that.
Is it normal for it to take so long to turn off?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Yep. Just because there's any gases that may be in that chamber, it's got to clear all that out before it shuts down. If the furnace is running and it's really hot, it needs that cool down cycle. Otherwise, it will just stay hot and sit there and cook. So yeah, it usually takes 2 to 3 minutes to shut back down. So this right here is your cable and satellite. Remember you had that hookup outside, so that's where you plug that into with your receiver box if you get that. This one here's your antenna. If you're pulling your local over-the-air stations, you have to turn this switch on to pull up your cable station or your antenna stations.
Okay.
And then you have to run your channel scan on your TV every time, depending on if you're at different locations. This is pre-wired for a King Wi-Fi jack or Wi-Fi basically extender, and then you can get a little router that mounts up. All the wires are behind this little panel here.
Okay.
And then I believe that's wired up to your antenna on your roof. It's like a little Wi-Fi extender built into that. Stereo, it's just a basic stereo on off. You've got Bluetooth, so you can pair that to your phone. Zone 1 and 2 is indoors and outdoors. Yep, so indoors is 1, outdoors is 2. And if they're both off, it'll sound like it's not working.
Okay.
And then, like I said, Bluetooth, you can download
How do you tell if
music.
they're on?
It says on.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
And then to shut it down, you can hold that button and it'll turn red. You can download music to a USB, plug it in there. If you get a TV hooked up, you can download movies to USB and then use your USB or your HDMI cable here to run up to your TV. Refrigerator, as I was saying, that's gas electric. Most people just leave it on auto. That way when you're plugged in, it uses the electric. When you unplug, it kicks right over to gas. Yes, it's okay to pull it with the gas running. The only time you have to turn your gas off when you're pulling down the road is through tunnels. That's we went through Pennsylvania a couple months ago and I had to turn all my gas tanks off. That's just a requirement going through tunnels. So if you're going out in the mountains, kind of keep that in mind. But I've pulled my trailer for 12 years and I run my gas when I'm pulling down the road and I've never had a problem.
Okay.
Temperature setting right here. So if you're freezing down in your refrigerator, turn it down. If it's not cold enough or it's not freezing up in your freezer, just turn that up. When you switch over to gas, say we unplugged and it automatically kicks over to gas, that orange light will turn on. If it starts flashing, that means your burner outside's not lighting up.
Okay.
Go out and check that out. Make sure there's no spiders in there. Spiders really love getting inside propane orifices, and
That's your job.
that's where they create
She hates
homes.
spiders.
Yeah. Stovetop here, not a glass cooktop. The flames will shatter the glass if you don't open that up. Just make sure you fold it back down when you're driving. Turn the burner on, and then so that will ignite all of your burners. It might take a minute to pull gas through. There it goes. I always, when I get to the campsite, first thing I do after I fill my water heater at the water station, get to my campsite, I turn the stove on. That way I know there's gas in the system, so if I'm dry camping, I can fire up the refrigerator and I can fire up the gas on the water heater, because the orifices in the fridge and the water heater are so small, it's going to take forever to get that gas pressure built up. So turn your stove on first, that way you know there's pressure.
That it's working.
Yep. And then your oven, so just turn that onto the pilot light. You're going to want to hold that for about 30 seconds to a minute. And then down in the bottom, this may take a few tries. Like I said, you gotta hold it sometimes for a minute.
I can see it clicking, yeah.
Again, this is why you want to light up your burners on your stove first, because it takes forever to build that gas pressure up. There it goes. So your pilot in the back is lit now.
Oh, yep. I can see the reflection. You see it?
Yep.
So once that's lit, hold it for about another 10 to 15 seconds, because there's a thermocouple in there that needs to heat up. That's a safety valve. If that pilot light goes out, it'll close that valve so it's not pumping your camper full of gas, and then you can turn your oven on. The temperatures on this oven are not exact. It's not a household oven. I know because we do a lot of winter camping and I bake a lot in my trailer. I get picked on for it. But when you're camping up in the UP and it's -5 degrees out, brownies and cookies are what you live on. So if you plan on doing a lot of baking in your oven, I suggest getting one of those oven thermometers because this thing is not accurate at all. And you got your light and fan for your cooktop. Standard little microwave. Behind here is where all of your kind of water hookups are when you're doing winterizing.
Okay.
Number 2 square bit will be your best friend.
Okay.
That's everything that they...
Well, at least it's consistent, huh?
Yeah. So there's your water heater. And right now that is ready to put water in. So winterized mode, you're actually going to turn these valves this way. And that bypasses that tank so that you don't pump that full of antifreeze. And then when you're ready to fill it up with water, just point it at the tank. That's in use mode. Your water pump is, I believe it's down below there.
So since that was already like that, there's no, do we have to worry about all the antifreeze stuff? Like you said, some stuff outside was still winterized, but
Right.
that wasn't.
So there's antifreeze in your lines. I'm actually going to turn that off. That way when you hook water up to it, you're not putting antifreeze in there.
Okay.
There might be a little residual antifreeze in there. It's fine. It's non-toxic. It's actually cheap vodka. I've gotten it in my mouth before. It reminds me of my high
Taco
school
vodka.
day. 5 o'clock. So it's not going to hurt you if a little bit gets in your water line. Most people don't drink hot water, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you're flushing your lines, you want to make sure it's still in the winterized mode. Do your hot and your cold separately on each faucet, on your kitchen, your outdoor port, your bathroom shower, your sink, and your toilet, and then come in here and turn this on to fill that up. That way you're not putting as much antifreeze in there. Like I said, there might be a little residual in there. That's fine. It's not going to hurt anything. And then your water pump is... So there's a valve right here. A couple things to take apart when you're winterizing and de-winterizing. So right here is your water pump. This is the winterized valve for that with the line that comes down. You've got a little cap on the end of there. Basically, when you're ready to winterize, you'll turn this valve to this line and you'll stick this down into a jug of antifreeze.
Yep. Okay.
And that'll suck it right up from the jug. And then that's in use mode, so there isn't it's fine to do this. That's not going to get any residual antifreeze in. So once you fill up your fresh tank, your pump should start filling from your fresh tank there. It has a red LED light if one of these fuses fails.
Oh, okay, nice.
It'll turn on letting you know you need to replace that.
Yeah, I think I saw one of the YouTube videos I watched said to always have fuses with you.
Yes.
That happens.
Yep, because if you get a short, I mean, it doesn't take much to pop those fuses.
Okay.
So absolutely get some spare fuses. Excuse me. And all of your AC vents, yep, those open up and they can turn so you can get different airflow. Your AC, so you can have centralized airflow blowing out right here, or close these and it'll push air out the ducts. These vents right here, these pop out. Just make sure these get cleaned regularly. This will start gathering dust on it the more you use it, and that will affect your air conditioner performance. So clean those regularly in the summertime.
Man, you got a lot to do to keep this nice, girl.
I know.
The big thing about RV air conditioners is they only drop 20 degrees. Your thermostat may say 33. If it's 100 degrees out, you're only going to cool this trailer down to 80 degrees. I have had so many trailers come into service. My AC's not working. The first thing we check is that delta per the manufacturer. If it's 20 degrees difference, your AC is good and I'm not going to do anymore. So just kind of keep that in mind. We want to crank up for your fan.
Oh, that's how you turn the fan on?
Yep, little push
Little
button
manual.
right
And
there.
now you want that on all the time while you're showering, right? Isn't that like a big thing in these bathrooms is like moisture?
Yeah, yep. So when you're showering, definitely turn your fan on. If you're camping in the wintertime, I suggest getting a cover for, they make vent lids for these. that you can
We won't
put on
camp
there.
anymore. We don't.
Shower stuff. That does have a little stopper on it that you can slide over. So once you get to your perfect temperature, kind of shut it off, because if you think about it, you've only got a 6-gallon water heater. That puts out 3 gallons a minute. So you got a real short shower. So get it to where you like it and turn it off.
So
it's a little bit dried up in there. But when you're in storage, especially in the summertime, make sure there's enough water in there covering that seal so that seal doesn't dry up and crack.
okay.
Should we put something in there before we leave here today?
Yeah,
Like-
I'll throw some antifreeze
Okay.
in there. It just dried up from sitting here over the winter.
Yeah. Trailer connected. Okay.
Go to your settings.
Okay. This button.
Things are down, something like that.
Okay. Default trailer.
So if you go down to settings, over, go to driver assist,
Okay.
over, it says trailer sway control.
Okay. So we need to turn that
Turn that
off. Okay. Perfect.
And then trailer brake mode, I believe, yep, that's electric.
Yeah, it's
So
right
that's fine.
here.
And rear, we don't. Oh, that's.
Rear parking.
That's just like it beeps.
Yeah, we want that off because we're hooked up. Okay. I've had to do that before with her thing. Okay. Anything else I need to know? So, where were we when it said trailer engaged or whatever?
That pops up automatically when you
Okay.
hook the trailer up. Yep.
Okay.
Trailer brake.
On your trailer brakes, so you got the little squeeze triggers there.
Yeah.
That's like your emergency override. You've got the sway control on there, but if you were to get into a sway, the last thing you want to do is hit the brakes on your truck. You'll jackknife.
Okay.
So what you do is you squeeze that locks the brakes up, or it applies the brakes to the trailer. Basically, it's like pulling a string tight. It'll pull the trailer tight and straighten you out.
So you like let off your gas and everything
Yep.
and squeeze this.
Squeeze that, and that'll stop the sway.
Okay.
So never hit the brakes on the truck.
As you start to sway. You always
If
use
I
that.
sway. Okay.
Yep. The plus and minus, I believe that's what it has
Yep.
on there.
Yep.
So that's your gain. If you say you're supposed to drive like 25 miles an hour to test it, hit your brakes on your truck. If it's yanking back on you, hit the minus. If you don't feel like your trailer's braking with your truck evenly, hit the plus.
Okay.
It's probably going to take you a few times to get that adjusted to where you feel comfortable with that. I still, with my trailer, adjust it every time I drive, just because different driving conditions, it affects it
And you
differently.
can adjust that while you're in like you can adjust it while you're driving.
Yep.
I don't need to be in park or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah. If you hit that right now, it'll come up on your dash.
I was gonna say,
and-
does that show?
Oh,
is there a-
okay. I'm just gonna hit it once. Okay, so we're
So
at.
you'll go up to like, it'll go all the way up to 10, I believe.
Okay.
And that's the braking force on the trailer. Like I said, if it's yanking you back and locking your tires up, you don't want that, back that off some.
So you
Okay.
want it kind of to feel like it's connected, like
Yeah.
all one unit. Like,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah.
What do you find is the most common setting for that? Like if I'm at, what am I at,
It
3.5?
probably just depends on your truck.
They're all different.
Okay.
Every truck and every trailer is different. I can
Okay.
hook up 6 different trailers to my truck, and I'll be setting it different every
Okay.
time. You're backing up into the site, you have to pull this off.
Okay.
If you feel like you need more sway control, you can tighten this up. You can also tighten this up to remove it. And you just loosen that up a little bit. Pull these pins. There's another one right here, and that's how you remove that. Like I said, before you back up in, do not back up in your sight with this on there. You'll bend it, or your brake you'll hit.
Don't back up
Okay.
at period with it on.
No. If you're backing straight up, that's fine. No backing up.
Like
and
where you
turning.
have to turn, like
Yeah,
turn.
if you have to turn it all, take this off, otherwise you will destroy this.
Okay.
And then these are they're adjustable, so like I said, when you put more weight in your trailer, you may come up another link or two. The biggest thing is put your pad down, kind of lift your trailer in the back of your truck up a little bit, pull your pin. There's a rod inside here. So this is your assist handle. If I was to remove that pin right now, that's going to snap right down. There's a lot of tension on there. So have your jack down, raise it up a little bit to relieve that tension, and then bring this down. Like I said, the more weight that you get in it, you can tighten these or loosen these. Really,
You're just trying to keep it even, right?
yeah. It's these ones are really nice because you can adjust them on the fly once you put weight in your trailer. Head up to the hook of the chain for now. A lot of people get carabiner clips and hook them up to the frame. This
Okay.
one seems kind of tight, so I didn't want to do that because I don't want you turning the corner and having it pull that brake out.
Right, okay.
That's fine. It's just an emergency brake.
Okay.